PraDa Law Live, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jackie Mendez. I'm your host for today's show. Happy Friday to everyone watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, go ahead, like, share, and subscribe that video, because you never know who you're going to help with this if we're not helping you. That number on the screen, 888-88-LEGAL. Give us a call. The show is live. The call is free. The consultation will be free. And let's go ahead and introduce our attorneys for today. Our criminal attorneys. First up, we have Mike Aber.
Hi, Jackie. Thank you. Happy to be here as always.
And of course, our partner here at PraDa Law, Daniel Silver.
Hi, Jackie. Thanks. Pleasure to be here.
And of course, the lovely Jennifer Pratt, our partner also here at PraDa Law.
Thank you, Jackie. Hello to the panel. Hello to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this evening with you all.
And like I said, happy Friday, everyone. We're talking criminal law. We talk criminal law probably on Fridays because the weekend is, very close. And you never know. Sometimes, people get out of hand, they get in trouble. And we want to know we want you guys to know that you have rights. And let's go ahead and talk about this.
We're going to be talking criminal, and today we're going to be talking about how we use experts, not only in family cases. I know Attorney Silver has been mentioning during our family shows on Tuesdays about the use of experts, but today we're going to talk about how you can use experts effectively to defend yourself also in criminal cases. But before we begin on our main topic, I want to just throw a curveball at both of you guys and just ask you a quick question, just because it is really relevant. It was a big news last week, and I'm just wondering from both of you guys what you think of this, what you make of it, and it's regarding the number of people, and now more and more prevalent people that are famous, that are in the eye, social media, or media, I should say, that are getting arrested for alleged PPP fraud. Specifically, we had a local rapper that was arrested for that. The allegations are that he purchased luxury items, one of them being some sort of luxury vehicle. And I was having this conversation during the week with other criminal attorneys. I would love to hear your input, Attorney Haber and Attorney Silver. And they were saying that they thought that as a rapper, you could justify the purchase of a Ferrari as being part of what you need to get your business to go. But we also know that the PPP was supposed to be, depending on what you applied for, was supposed to be to pay your employees. So I'm not sure how allegedly purchasing vehicles, luxury vehicles, anyway, would fit into that. But any comments on that? Because I feel like every day I turn on the news and it's someone else getting arrested for these alleged fraud cases.
Well, if you want my comment is real simple. I think it's a wonderful thing. I encourage them to continue to do what they want to do and put away plenty of money to hire people like me to defend them. Because honestly, it's despicable. There's not enough money for real people who have real problems. And when you have, and I'm just going to go out on a limb and say, really selfish people who misuse the system, I have a personal problem with that. On a professional level, please continue. Go right ahead. I think this is going to be a enormous area of prosecution and defense work. So.
And there is the other rapper, I forget where he's from. He was actually making rap videos. Also last week, it was found out that he was making rap videos and making rap songs that were actually getting attention, getting views, where he was alleging in his songs that he was making unemployment claims, fraudulent unemployment claims. I guess he thought that the feds would never watch the videos, and he was catching some hype, and now he's been arrested for allegedly unemployment. And in one of the lines, he says something like, "You have to sell cocaine, I just gotta file a claim." I mean, it's a great line, but I think, like Attorney Haber says, as far as the attorney, this will probably open up a new avenue of business, all this fraud.
I mean, what I think is that the government is making examples of some of the really bad cases because, like you said, maybe some things you can legitimize as business expenses, but when you take a PPP loan and you pay off your personal mortgage and you buy yourself some jewelry and you're spending the government's money as it should not have been intended. And
there's a word for it, Dan, and it's called fraud. Okay, it's called fraud. Not really a complicated proposition. If the money is designated for a specific purpose, it's got to be used for the purpose that it's designated for. And you can get creative. Look, spin is a beautiful thing. It's what we do as lawyers, right? Because we don't have the blessing necessarily in family court for sure, and criminal as well, of having, you know, the perfect client, right? Angels from heaven that are going to be anointed and sainted with halos coming into the courtroom. The fact is, we're dealt the cards that we get. And so what do? We spin. We try and make our client look as good as we can, or we try and explain the circumstances as best as we can, which is kind of one of the things that experts are really good for. They help us to sell our spin.
Thank you so much, Attorney Haber. Once again, 888-88-LEGAL. Give us a call. The show is live, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions. Thank you.
Talk to us about, go ahead, Attorney Silver.
To me, it's almost akin to like Medicaid or Medicare fraud. I mean, you're basically taking money that is supposed to be for the most needy to get back on their feet, and, you know, it's terrible because this money is just being you know, embezzled or stolen, and it's I think you're going to see the government making some examples out of some of these people.
And you know, a lot of the times when you have that stuff, whether it's PPP fraud or Medicare fraud, these are very wealthy people who are taking this money. I mean, it's one thing if you have somebody who's got 5 children and they can't put food on the plate. I mean, I almost understand, you know, and that's something I could spin and sell. But when you got a guy who's got a, you know, some of these stories that I hear about these people who are buying Lamborghinis and they're buying second homes and they're paying off credit card debt, and these people are people of means. It's so abusive. It's offensive.
It really is, especially because I can say it as a small business owner myself. You know, this money, and you yourself, I mean, you own your own firm. This money was supposed to go to real small businesses. And there's a lot of people that I know from across the board, from lawyers to personal, all sorts of companies that didn't get money or didn't get enough money. And some of them even had to close or file bankruptcy. And yet you've got these gentlemen or people, you know, allegedly committing these crimes. And that's really discouraging. So I know we have to come up on our first commercial break. I promised you when we come back, we're going to be talking about experts with Attorney Haber and Attorney Silver, how you can use them not just in your family cases, but also in criminal cases, how experts can help to defend you in your criminal case and hopefully hear those beautiful words, not guilty.
That's right. Well, okay. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. That number on the screen, 888-88-LEGAL. We'll be back with our attorneys. Stay tuned.
I know you're home right now asking yourself, how? How will I pay my rent, my mortgage, my bills, my credit card debt? I'm attorney Alexis Garcia with PraDa Law. I've personally helped people with financial problems over the last 10 years. I understand what you are going through. We saw people lose it all in the 2008 financial crisis. You don't have to lose it all. The consultation is free. Call us now. I will help protect what you have built. You have nothing to lose by calling us. Call us now. These are trying times. This deadly virus is affecting our health, economy, jobs, our small business owners. Bankruptcy protection may be able to save assets and immediately stop your creditors from harassing you. Small business owners, employees of business of any size, we know you need help. Call us now. We will help you get back on your feet. Don't wait until it's too late. This is the time to call.
Sé que estás en la casa ahora mismo preguntándote, ¿cómo? ¿Cómo voy a pagar la hipoteca, la renta, los biles, las tarjetas de crédito? Soy la abogada Jennifer Pratt con PraDa Law. Yo personalmente he ayudado a las personas con problemas financieros durante los últimos 10 años. Yo entiendo por lo que estás pasando. Vimos cómo la gente lo perdió todo durante la crisis financiera del 2008. No tienes que perderlo todo. Llama ahora. La consulta es gratis. Te ayudaremos a proteger todo lo que has construido durante todos estos años. Sabemos que estos son tiempos difíciles. Este virus mortal está amenazando nuestra salud, nuestra economía, nuestros empleos y a los propietarios de nuestras pequeñas empresas. La consulta es gratis. Llame ahora. Te ayudaremos a recuperarte. No esperes hasta que sea demasiado tarde. Llame ya.
Welcome back to PraDa Law Live. Once again, I'm Jackie Mendez, and that number on the screen for you to call is 888-88-LEGAL. The consultation will be free, ladies and gentlemen. Your first consultation. Let's definitely get back into the conversation with Attorney Haber, Attorney Silver. I know we were going to touch up on some experts.
Experts.
Yeah, experts. So when would I use an expert in a case?
Criminal case specifically.
Well, we use experts for all sorts of things in criminal law, but I think before we say what do we use them for, let's say what is an expert?
Okay.
What's the difference between an expert witness and any other witness?
Okay.
And there really is one major difference. Go ahead, Dan, tell them.
An expert could render an opinion. A lay witness can't.
Normally, a witness who comes into a courtroom and offers testimony can testify as to facts, what they saw, what they possibly maybe sometimes heard, things that they observed, things of which they have firsthand knowledge. That's what a witness comes in and testifies to. Witness doesn't necessarily get to come in and say what they think. So if you want somebody to offer an opinion, you have to first qualify them as an expert.
Okay.
And that gives them the authority to render an opinion to a jury.
Okay, great.
How do we qualify them?
Yeah, how do they qualify?
Skills, expertise, practical knowledge and training, but there's no one size fits all, but they certainly should have, the required background, training, experience, education, and then experience. But, depending on what kind of expert you're talking about, you certainly different qualifications.
So if you want to go by the letter of the rule, how experts are defined in Florida, they are people who are duly and regularly engaged in the practice of a profession, who hold a professional degree from a university or college, and have had special professional training and experience, or someone who is possessed of special knowledge or skill about a subject upon which they are called to testify, regardless of any kind of degree. So you don't have to be necessarily academically educated to be an expert.
I got this. My cousin Vinny. When they got the girl on the stand. That's a great scene. That's a great.
Marissa Tomei.
Okay, so you just as soon as you said that, was like what I thought about. I mean, is that real? Can that really happen?
That absolutely can happen. So again, you've got to
recap for the people in case they've never seen My Cousin Vinny, which if you haven't, I don't know what life you've been living, you need to watch that movie. It's great.
The person who makes the decision is the judge. The judge has to qualify the individual as an expert. So whether the individual is a college professor or a psychiatrist or a toxicologist or an accident reconstructionist, I use a great example of a non-academic expert is a private investigator. I use private investigators in many of my cases, and sometimes I have to put them on the witness stand, and sometimes I have to have them render an opinion, particularly where the case revolves around the concept of reasonable doubt. So what I'm doing is I'm basically levying a challenge against what law enforcement did. So I bring an investigator up and I put somebody on the witness stand who, because of their experience with investigations, is able to say, well, yeah, the cops did A, B, and C, but they didn't do X, Y, and Z. And they could have done L, M, and N. So experts give you the ability to go through that.
Are these, in that example you gave, would it help, or is it necessary if they were, like, for example, former police officers themselves, or how does that work?
So Dan and I were just talking about that before the show, and it's a two-edged sword, right? Sometimes a law enforcement trained investigator is very helpful. Sometimes a law enforcement trained investigator is not necessarily as helpful as one that is not law enforcement trained. So it really depends on the circumstances of the case.
I mean, if you're talking about, your claim is that someone may have violated, or the law enforcement may have violated established procedures, then perhaps having a former law enforcement officer would be very helpful.
Right, exactly. And then other times, maybe not. So like one of the cases that Dan and I were talking about earlier was a case where I had to show what the cops didn't do. And it wasn't a law enforcement investigator who needed to testify to it. It was somebody who had common sense, skill, and experience that was able to say, well, they could have done this, they could have done the other thing. Here's a list of things. And this guy came into the courtroom with, technology and was able to show the jury and say, look, you see this little thing? I bought it for $12 on eBay. Why didn't the cops have it? So it doesn't necessarily have to be a cop. But then again, like Dan said, there are some cases where, let's say you're doing a complex narcotics defense. You may want to hire a former narcotics investigator to come in and be able to say, well, I was with Metro-Dade Police Department for 27 years, and I spent 13 of those years as a narcotics investigator, and I applied for 275 search warrants. And, that kind of credibility will bolster, or should bolster, or may bolster, because the jury is free. That's another thing about experts, right? Just because you're designated as an expert doesn't mean the jury needs to buy what you're selling.
Right.
They're free to disregard all or any portion of the testimony.
Maybe that entrapment defense.
I'll be right back with you guys. We're
Well,
going
we
to
do
invite
have
our
to take a short-
callers.
Yeah, we do have to take a short break, but that number, once again, on the screen, 888-88-LEGAL. Give us a call.
And we're coming up on our next commercial break. But when we come back, I want to ask Attorney Haber and Attorney Silver. So we have our expert, day of trial, let's just say. We have our expert, and you're saying that the jury may or may not buy what the expert has to say. But is there a point where the judge decides whether we're going to allow this expert to even testify to the jury? I want to know about that and how that works and what happens if they're excluded. And also what kind of preparation I would imagine you have to do with these experts so that you know exactly what they're going to say or not say when they're on the stand. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break. You don't want to miss our conversation about experts.
I know you're home right now asking yourself, how? How will I pay my rent, my mortgage, my bills, my credit card debt? I'm attorney Alexis Garcia with PraDa Law. I've personally helped people with financial problems over the last 10 years. I understand what you are going through. We saw people lose it all in the 2008 financial crisis. You don't have to lose it all. The consultation is free. Call us now. I will help protect what you have built. You have nothing to lose by calling us. Call us now. These are trying times. This deadly virus is affecting our health, economy, jobs, our small business owners. Bankruptcy protection may be able to save assets and immediately stop your creditors from harassing you. Small business owners, employees of business of any size, we know you need help. Call us now. We will help you get back on your feet. Don't wait until it's too late. This is the time to call.
Sé que estás en la casa ahora mismo preguntándote, ¿cómo? ¿Cómo voy a pagar la hipoteca, la renta, los biles, las tarjetas de crédito? Soy la abogada Jennifer Pratt con PraDa Law. Yo personalmente he ayudado a las personas con problemas financieros durante los últimos 10 años. Yo entiendo por lo que estás pasando. Vimos cómo la gente lo perdió todo durante la crisis financiera del 2008. No tienes que perderlo todo. Llama ahora. La consulta es gratis. Te ayudaremos a proteger todo lo que has construido durante todos estos años. Sabemos que estos son tiempos difíciles. Este virus mortal está amenazando nuestra salud, nuestra economía, nuestros empleos y a los propietarios de nuestras pequeñas empresas. La consulta es gratis. Llame ahora. Te ayudaremos a recuperarte. No esperes hasta que sea demasiado tarde. Llame ya.
And welcome back to PraDa Law Live. Once again, I'm Jackie Mendez, your host for the show. That number on the screen, 888-88-LEGAL. Give us a call. Your first consultation is free. Let's get back into the conversation with our attorneys.
That's right, Jackie. We've been talking about experts and how we can use experts in criminal cases. And before the break, and without getting into too much procedural, because I know we have a lot to talk about in this last segment, is I bring my expert, I bring Jackie in, let's say, and I want to bring her in as an expert, and there's a lawsuit between a record company and an artist, and I want to bring Jackie in because she's a musical performer, she's an artist. I want to bring her in so she can give us her expertise as relevant to my client. And let's say that in this example, my client is the artist, so I'm bringing her in to testify as to, yes, these contracts are, let's say, routine, normal in the industry. Yes, this agreement is something that most artists of this caliber would sign, etc. What stops me, or who stops me from bringing Jackie in to be my expert that day?
The judge could, perhaps, but again, you know, so you would bring in Jackie, and the other side would have a chance to voir dire her, basically get her qualifications to say, okay, you're an expert, you know, and let's, you know, try and tear her down. That way, a judge is not going to qualify her as an expert.
Voir dire. So is that done outside the scope of outside of the presence of the judge?
No. It's
in front of the judge.
Right, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
And they can also, the other side can also bring in their own expert, of course, to kind of have some sort of rebuttal against my...
But you go through all this well in advance of trial. This is all ironed out in advance of trial.
It's not going to happen the day of.
It's not going to happen the day of.
No expert that day.
When we talk about experts, we're really usually talking about experts that are really not going to be subject to qualification. So if I'm bringing in a psychiatrist, if I'm bringing in a law school professor, if I'm bringing in a forensic toxicologist or a handwriting expert or accident reconstructionist or any of a million other areas, the overwhelming odds are it's going to be very difficult to not qualify that individual as an expert.
Attorneys like our firm, when we retain an expert, we're not going to find someone who's like, oh, you never testified in court as an expert before? Well, it's going to be great. This is going to be your first time. It's going to be wonderful. No, we use seasoned professional experts that have been.
You can have novel, situations creep up.
Start from somewhere.
You can have novel situations creep up too, where things that you just never expected. I mean, that's the one rule about litigation is expect the unexpected, right? You can go in there with any preconceived notion you have, but the one thing that's guaranteed is anything can happen inside of a courtroom.
Okay, thank you so much. Once again, that number on the screen, 888-88-LEGAL.
Experts. So what other kinds of experts can we use, and how are they useful in these cases?
In my family cases, private investigators, especially if there's allegations of any sort of stalking, domestic violence, and even
how about infidelity?
Well, judges don't care so much about the infidelity proving it. I mean, there's a dissipation claim if someone spent $20,000 going to Las Vegas with another woman. Perhaps you get $10,000 back. But just to prove the infidelity. However, I have seen a prenuptial agreement where there was a cheating clause.
Oh, my favorite!
Basically, we hired the investigator, found proof of cheating, and was able to basically effectively litigate that in court. So in the context of a prenuptial agreement where a cheating clause comes up, then yeah, we could use it that way.
Here's another one that's very popular, and it cross-references between family and criminal because we use them in both arenas regularly, and that's mental health. Ooh. So a lot of times many people think about insanity, but it's not necessarily insanity. A lot of times we're trying to prove up a bona fide mental health defense or a bona fide mental health mitigation, where we're trying to say, look, we're not saying that the guy didn't do it. We're just saying that there's reasons that you need to consider where he didn't have the intent to commit this crime and he was, subject to this illness. And that happens a lot in family court too, where you have to bring in psychologists or psychiatrists, especially with children. Guardians are very big. They become experts because guardians get to give opinions to the judge. Imagine being a guardian. The power of that person in a family courtroom is incredible.
It's very difficult to have a guardian have one recommendation and you be able to effectively cross-examination and convince the judge that the guardian's wrong. It's very, very difficult. It can happen, but it's very, very difficult.
Especially in family court where the judge picks the guardian,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
So it's the judge says, okay, you know what? I'm going to appoint Mr. Haber to be the guardian in this case. So basically what the judge is telling both parties is, this is the person that I have faith in, and I want you to work with this person. So now, imagine having to be on the flip side of that and convince the judge that the person that the judge appointed, their opinion should be ignored.
Right.
Yeah, that don't work out too well usually.
Once again, 888-88-LEGAL. Give us a call.
And Attorney Silver, you've been able to successfully exclude expert testimony in the past.
Well, I have, but that's a whole other story for a whole other time. But basically, if an expert doesn't follow the procedures as far as, sometimes you need to apply the data to the science to give their opinion. I mean, the opinions can be subject to being excluded. One thing I did want to mention, though, is in family cases and criminal cases, we have forensic accountants and also investigators that can find money. So we do national asset searches. There are international asset searches. The sky's the limit when it comes to computerized financial bank data that these experts and investigators have access to.
Speaking of experts and finances, the probably most important thing that we haven't discussed is expert fees and costs.
Oh.
Because if you think paying your lawyer is brutal, wait till you have to pay your expert. Some of them get paid a hell of a lot more than I do.
I mean, a family case with a business valuation and 2 forensic accountants doing that sort of calculation and report, and the tens of thousands of dollars can rack up very, very quickly.
Accident reconstructionists, psychologists, psychiatrists. I mean, these people charge $400, $500, $600, $700 an hour. It's medical experts. I mean, forget about it.
Travel time.
Everything. I mean, you're paying for a lot. Fees are big there. But again, the benefits are huge too. So if your lawyer
pay for it yourself as a defendant, there's no other side.
Well, unless you're declared indigent. you know, if your public defender represents you, you won't be paying for your experts.
Is the juice worth the squeeze?
Well, guys, thank you so much for all the information today. We are going to have to say goodbye. That's the end of the show, but we'll see you on Monday. So happy Friday. Stay safe out there. And thank you for tuning into PraDa Law Live.